Right, so hello and welcome back to another 90 Day Fiancé video on Arthur TV. Today we're looking at part 14 of 43-year-old Danielle and her 28-year-old Tunisian husband Mohamed. So over the last few videos we've watched Danielle hunt down Mohamed in Miami. After the pair finally agreed to get a divorce, Mohamed left Danielle to start his new life in Florida. However, things didn't end there, and just a few weeks later Danielle found out his address and flew to Miami to win him back. After Danielle threatened to turn up to his house uninvited if he continued to not reply to any of her messages, Mohamed finally answered the phone, telling her that he would speak to her one last time, after which he never wanted to see her again. So the following day, she turned up not to win him back, but to confront him with a folder filled with evidence against him. However, Mohamed wasn't interested in arguing, and as a result, a frustrated Danielle then threw the binder at him. Straight away, Mohamed called the police, who showed up, told Danielle to leave, and filed a report against her. The day after, Mohamed dejectedly came to realise that he had to once again find a new place to live. And with Danielle vowing to do everything in her power to get him deported, his future in the US remains uncertain. It's now been several weeks since their big fight, and it's time for them to once again be reunited for a season finale tell-all episode. Coming up, we've got deep questions, painful answers, disgusting revelations, and yet another massive fight. So stay tuned because this one gets juicy. First up, the host, Sean Robinson, was curious about Mohamed's initial intentions in the relationship, and so she asked him if he had ever tried to move to the US before he had met Danielle.
I wasn't even thinking about coming to the United States. I was living in a good country, doing fine, working, having a job, have my car and everything. I was fine. I did not use Danielle to get the green card. And if I am looking for the green card, how can I put myself in a public television so people, they will see it? I will be hiding.
Not an unreasonable point, to be fair. I think quite a lot of people on this show almost use it as a way of achieving the second half of their American dream. Like their partner gets them the green card and then the show gets them the fame and money. But I don't think we've ever really seen that from Mohamed. Even after 3 years on the show, he's never really tried to live the reality TV star lifestyle. He's always seemed to just want to enjoy a simple life where having a job and a home in the country he loves is good enough for him. Another point of controversy following the series, particularly among viewers, is the fact that Danielle still uses Mohamed's surname despite the two being separated. So Sean asked her why she still goes by Danielle Jabali rather than using her maiden name and being Danielle Mullins.
I've gotten a lot of conflict for it on social media. A lot of people want me to drop his last name. And I tell them technically I'm still married to him right now. And it's on all my IDs and things, so that's why I still use it.
I think some of the controversy here comes from the fact that people assume, not unreasonably, that this is part of Danielle's obsession over Mohamed, and sort of illustrates her refusal to accept that it's over. But in of itself, keeping his last name isn't that odd. In fact, a surprising number of people tend to assume that getting a divorce reverts your surname back to what it was before you got married. But that's not actually the case. You have to actually change it back, and quite a lot of people choose not to. Given it's a bit of a laborious process changing it and getting new copies of all her IDs, especially while she's still married to him, I think there are other things that she's more deserving of criticism for. Next, Sean got back onto the topic of initial intentions. Obviously Danielle now quite clearly believes that Mohamed used her for the green card, so instead of asking her that, Sean asked Danielle if she at least understood why some people were assuming that a younger, attractive guy like Mohamed would have no other reason to be interested in her.
It's because of that I'm older and I'm heavier set and stuff, so they don't think I could get a guy like Mohamed.
And did you ever think, well, of course I can. I've got a lot going for myself.
Yeah. No, because it's not just about the looks. It's what's on the inside of you.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but this is just more delusion from Danielle. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are certainly plenty of people who have wonderful personalities with wit or humour or charm or whatever it might be that makes up for how much they perhaps deviate physically from certain beauty standards. But to suggest that Danielle is one of those people would, in the nicest way possible, be very, very generous. In fact, being completely honest, not only does she not have a desirable personality, she actively has an undesirable one. I mean, she evidently has a tendency ability to lie to, stalk, harass, steal from, and in some cases abuse her partners. And Mohamed's not afraid to talk about just how horrible being in a relationship with her was. But before we get onto Mohamed's reply, a quick message from today's sponsor, Air Up. Air Up is a bottle that gives flavour to water with scented air. All you have to do is fill it up with water, attach one of these flavour pods, I'm using strawberry and lemongrass, and pop it up to activate it. Then, when you sip, water and air passes through the flavour pod and you get the delicious flavour coming through. I love mine because I always wanted to drink more water, but I always found it so boring. So I used to just end up choosing drinks filled with sugar, caffeine, artificial sweeteners, and all kinds of additives that are no good for you. But now I can get all of the benefits of drinking water without having to sacrifice the flavour. If you're curious, now is a great time to give it a try, because the lovely people over at Air Up are giving us 10% off absolutely everything on their store using the code ArthurTV. And you can use the link down in the description to go check it out. Huge thank you to Air Up for sponsoring today's video and sending me this great bottle. Now let's find out from Mohamed what life was like living with Danielle.
She was giving me the worst life that a man can have. From the day one.
That seems really extreme to say something like that.
It's like that. Before I come here, she put in my head a different picture about her.
He does not hold back at all, and I actually really rate the honesty. And to be fair, with the amount that she tries to publicly defame him, he has every right to be this honest. At the end of the day, he is defending himself here. With everyone thinking that he just used her for a green card and dropped her straight after, I think he has to make it clear just how bad things were for him, because it justifies a lot of his behaviour, especially him leaving. Obviously, the whole relationship was quite suspicious from the start, and I think one of the big reasons for that was how quickly they went from meeting online to getting married. So one of the other cast members asked Danielle how she knew that Mohamed was the one, having only met him one time in person before agreeing to marry him.
Because of the way he treated me when I went to see him. He even sent me, hardly no one knows this, that's why there's issues. He knew my financial situation because in the very beginning, he sent me money to buy shoes for one of my daughters one time.
You know, for someone who's constantly trying to vilify Mohamed, she doesn't always do the best job of it, does she? I mean, this was just quite a sweet thing for Mohamed to do, and it doesn't really prove anything. He's claiming that before he arrived, she promised that she'd be able to financially support him until he got the right to work. And so I don't think her being short on money on one occasion proves that he could possibly have known how bad it was going to be. And on top of that, the lies and the empty promises went way beyond just money.
She lied to me, but not only about her finances, about everything. She never told me that she has a lot of debts. She never told me that she has criminal record. She never told me that she stole a credit card and she started using it and she got in trouble and she spent time in jail because of that.
Now this is crazy because it's actually true. Whilst the season was going on, people were digging into her criminal past and uncovering all kinds of information. A Reddit user called Mohamed Jabali, which I'm guessing isn't actually Mohamed, posted what looks like her arrest record to the subreddit. And it is littered with theft, fraud, forgery, and there's even a random seatbelt violation thrown in there. In fact, some of the charges of theft on that screenshot relate to what Mohamed was referencing, which Danielle goes on to explain.
Yeah, because it keeps being brought up in social media. There was a credit card that came to the house that we lived in, and I used that credit card to buy like groceries and stuff like that because.
And how old are you by that time?
We were in a bad situation.
How old are you by that time?
And
are you old enough to know that you cannot use something that doesn't belong
Mohamed,
to you?
Will you stop?
This whole thing was actually really quite serious. She was charged with felony theft and felony fraud because of it. This is actually her mugshot photo from 2005 when this all went down. Fortunately for her, the felony charges were dropped and she was only found guilty of misdemeanor theft. But she still went on intensive probation for 2 years, had to attend counselling, and had to pay restitution. And that wasn't actually the only time she went to court. The year before that, she was actually found guilty of writing a bad check and had to pay restitution of $610 plus court fees and received another 2 years of probation. She even filed a motion back in 2016 to have the court record sealed, but it was denied because she wasn't a first-time offender. Now, I don't know how bad her financial situation was, and obviously poverty can make people go to all sorts of lengths to put food on the table for their kids. But if she was struggling to support herself and her 3 daughters so much that she had to resort to theft and fraud, you'd think bringing a man from Tunisia into the country to marry would be the least of your priorities. Obviously, it didn't even work out in the end, which makes the investment even less worthwhile. And now Sean wants to know where they stand on their divorce after Danielle's failed attempts to win Mohamed back in Miami.
I went on Thursday, and this was filed on Thursday, Mohamed.
Oh my gosh.
So, this is an annulment?
Yes, I refiled the annulment.
This cycle is never going to end, is it? I swear, if next season they go back to being friends, she pulls the annulment and then he ghosts her again, I'm just going to give up with this saga. You know, Mohamed didn't actually believe that the annulment was real when she first handed it to him, because it had no stamp and no signature on it, but she ended up convincing him that they were just original copies that were going to appear on the court system soon. Anyway, Sean went back to talking about the divorce and the fallout, and obviously one of the reasons that Mohamed was able to leave Danielle in the first place was Luisa. She was there for emotional support, she picked him up from the train station to drive him down to Florida, she paid for all the hotels on the way there and the one that they stayed in Miami, and she also promised to help him find a job once they got there. Although, as we saw earlier on in the saga, their friendship never worked out, Sean was curious just how close they were.
Have you and Luisa ever been intimate?
No.
Never.
Me and Luisa
We're
only
never
friends.
intimate?
No, only friends.
Always from the very beginning?
From the very beginning.
Okay, never kissed her?
No sex, no kissing, no nothing. Me and Luisa only friends. We supposed to be only friends, but once I find out that she's trying to be friend with me to be on TV,
Okay.
I cut her off my life.
If you remember back in part 8, Luisa actually admitted on social media that they had slept together several times, and actually went into some pretty juicy details. So their stories don't exactly match up, do they? I guess we'll never know for sure, but I don't doubt her story. I just think Mohamed's denying it because it wouldn't reflect too well on him. I mean, I know he left with all of his belongings, but he didn't tell Danielle where he was going or if he was even ever coming back. And of course, he was still married at the time, so I think he's just trying to avoid getting into trouble here. Mohamed also went on to deny that he was ever intimate with Gracie, who's obviously his friend from this season. Weirdly though, despite all of the rumours and suspicions about him and Luisa and him and Gracie, some people actually think Mohamed is gay, so Sean asked him about that as well.
You know, there have been rumors that you were gay.
That's not something that very important because I can be anything but gay. That's not you know, the last thing can happen in my life.
To be fair, I never really got that impression, and I think people suggesting that he had an intimate relationship with Walmart Tom are reaching a bit. Apparently, what makes some people think he might be gay is something that's barely been spoken about on their saga so far, and that's their intimacy. In the next part of the tell-all, Danielle and Mohamed go into absolutely disgusting detail about their bedroom exploits and make some shocking revelations. But because there's so much to talk about, I'm going to look at it all in detail in the next video to make sure that I don't miss anything. So if you're as inexplicably curious about their private life as I am, please feel free to subscribe down below so you can catch that next episode as soon as I upload it. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.